I never expected to stand up at my brother's wedding, but life has a way of creating perfect moments for revenge. As I watched Marcus beam at his bride-to-be, I thought about the path that led us here, a path paved with betrayal, determination, and carefully orchestrated plans. 5 years earlier, I sat in my father's study, the leather chair feeling unusually cold against my back. The mahogany desk between us held a single envelope, my grandfather's will. Dad's expression was unreadable as he adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. "Sophie," he began, his voice carrying that familiar tone of disappointment, "your grandfather left quite a substantial inheritance." He paused, fingers drumming against the desk. $2 million to be split between you and Marcus. My heart skipped. 1 million each, enough to finally launch the tech startup I'd been planning for years. But something in Dad's expression made my stomach twist. "However," he continued, "as executor of the will, I have some discretion in its distribution. Marcus needs this money more than you do. He's starting a family, buying a house. You just have your little software projects." The words hit like physical blows. My little software projects had already secured 2 patents, but in my family's eyes, anything technology-related that didn't involve corporate suits was just a hobby. "Dad, that's not fair. Grandpa meant for us to split it equally." He raised his hand, silencing me with a gesture he perfected over the years. "I've made my decision. Marcus will receive the full amount. You're smart, Sophie. You'll figure something out." I left his study that day with something more valuable than money: clarity. For years, I tried to win my family's approval, to make them see the potential in my ideas. Now I understood that would never happen. That night, I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. The first was to James Chin, a venture capitalist who'd been pursuing my latest software innovation, an AI-driven financial analysis platform. "You still interested in that exclusive license?" I asked. "Name your price," he replied without hesitation. The second call went to Diana Martinez, CEO of a struggling tech firm I'd been quietly watching. "I have a proposition for you," I began. The third call was to my best friend Mia, who'd recently inherited her father's investment firm. "Remember that plan we discussed? It's time." Within 6 months, my little software project had transformed into Aurora Technologies, a company that specialized in predicting market trends with unprecedented accuracy. We operated in the shadows, using shell companies and quiet acquisitions to build our empire. Marcus, flush with his newfound wealth, did what my family always expected of him. He invested in safe ventures, joined the right clubs, and proposed to Vanessa Mitchell, the daughter of a prominent business family. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that every safe investment he made was quietly being acquired by one of my shell companies. Every business deal he celebrated was orchestrated by Aurora's algorithms. While he boasted at family dinners about his business acumen, I sat quietly, watching my father beam with pride at his son's success. 3 years passed. Aurora Technologies grew into a billion-dollar empire, though few knew who actually owned it. I maintained my modest apartment, drove my old car, and let my family believe I was still working on my hobby. Then Marcus made his biggest move yet. He decided to acquire Mitchell Industries, his future father-in-law's company. The deal would establish him as a serious player in the business world. He leveraged everything he had, convinced that his business instincts were infallible. What he didn't know was that Mitchell Industries was already under Aurora's control. His future bride, Vanessa Mitchell, wasn't just the daughter of the founder. She was the CEO who had partnered with me to save her family's company 2 years earlier. The wedding was set for spring in the grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel. I watched my family fuss over preparations, treating it like a coronation for their golden child. Marcus would be marrying into one of the city's most prestigious families, and Dad couldn't have been prouder. The morning of the wedding, as I adjusted my bridesmaid's dress, yes, Marcus insisted I participate. Appearances matter after all. I received a text from Vanessa. "Board meeting concluded. All papers signed. It's done." I smiled at my reflection. In precisely 3 hours, during what was supposed to be the happiest moment of my brother's life, he would learn that he had just lost everything. His investments, his business deals, his carefully constructed empire. All of it now belonged to Aurora Technologies, and he was about to marry its CEO. When the minister asked if anyone objected to this union, I would stand up not as the forgotten sister, but as the owner of the company that had just acquired every business decision my brother had ever made. Sometimes revenge doesn't need to be served cold, sometimes it just needs the perfect moment. The wedding march began to play, and I took my place among the bridesmaids, watching Marcus's face glow with confidence and pride. He had no idea that in less than an hour, his entire world would change forever. The Riverside Hotel's grand ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers, white roses and silver ribbons adorning every surface. As Vanessa walked down the aisle in her designer gown, I couldn't help but admire her composure. Nobody would have guessed that just hours ago she had signed the papers that would destroy her soon-to-be husband's business empire. Marcus stood at the altar, beaming with the same self-assured smile he'd worn his entire life. Dad sat in the front row, chest puffed with pride, while Mom dabbed at her eyes with an embroidered handkerchief. They had no idea they were about to witness their perfect son's perfect world crumble. The ceremony proceeded exactly as rehearsed. The minister spoke about love, commitment, and trust, words that made me want to laugh given what was about to unfold. Then came the moment we'd been waiting for. If anyone has any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace. The traditional pause followed. My heart pounded as I stepped forward. Actually, I said, my voice clear and steady, I do object. Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Marcus turned to me, his face flushing red with anger. Sophie, what are you doing? I smiled, the same quiet smile I'd worn at countless family dinners while they dismissed my achievements. I think my brother should know exactly who he's marrying. I turned to address the shocked guests. Vanessa isn't just the daughter of Mitchell Industries founder. She's the CEO of the company that just acquired every business Marcus owns. Dad stood up, his face darkening. Sophie, stop this nonsense immediately. It's not nonsense, Dad. I continued, pulling out my phone. In fact, let me share some breaking business news. I read from the screen. Aurora Technologies, the leading AI-driven financial powerhouse, announces its acquisition of all subsidiaries previously owned by Marcus Wellington in a deal finalized this morning. Marcus laughed, but there was a note of uncertainty in his voice. Aurora Technologies, that company's been trying to take over half the market, but they don't own my businesses. I would know if they did. Would you? Vanessa finally spoke, her voice cool and professional. Aurora Technologies has been acquiring your companies through shell corporations for the past 3 years. As of 9 a.m. this morning, they own everything you've built with that $2 million inheritance. The color drained from Marcus's face as he turned to his bride. You knew about this. Of course she knew, I said, stepping closer. She's been Aurora's CEO for the past 2 years. But here's the real twist. Dear brother, she answers to me. I own Aurora Technologies. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched as understanding dawned on my father's face, followed by disbelief, and then something I'd never seen before. Fear. That's impossible, he whispered. You just work on small software projects. I laughed. Those small software projects built an AI system that can predict market trends with 96% accuracy. While you were giving Marcus my inheritance because he needed it more, I was building an empire. Every smart investment decision he made was orchestrated by my algorithms. Every lucky break he got was carefully planned by my team. Marcus lunged forward. Vanessa stepped between us. It's all legal, Marcus. Every contract, every acquisition, every deal. It's ironclad. You didn't just lose your businesses today. You lost them years ago. You were just too arrogant to notice. Why? Marcus's voice cracked. Why would you do this? Because 5 years ago, Dad taught me a valuable lesson about family, I said, meeting our father's eyes. He showed me that in this family, success only counts if it comes in the package they expect. Well, surprise, I succeeded, just not in the way you planned. I turned to leave but paused at the altar. Oh, and Vanessa. The board meeting on Monday is moved to 9 a.m. We have some new acquisitions to discuss. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. The wedding was called off, obviously. Marcus tried to fight the acquisitions in court, but discovered that every transaction was perfectly legal. Dad attempted to reach out multiple times, suddenly interested in my little software projects, but his calls went unanswered. A month later, I sat in my real office, the penthouse suite of Aurora Technologies headquarters, looking out over the city. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Dinner tonight? I'm buying. considering you cost me a wedding." I smiled. She had been the perfect partner in this plan, understanding exactly why it needed to be done. We built something remarkable together, far beyond the simple revenge I'd initially planned. My father's words from that day in his study echoed in my mind. "You'll figure something out." Well, I had figured it out. I figured out that success doesn't need anyone's permission or approval. Sometimes it just needs enough motivation and the patience to wait for the perfect moment. The $2 million that should have been mine, I turned it into $2 billion. And I did it my way, without their support, without their connections, without their approval. Last week, I received an invitation to my cousin's wedding. Apparently, Marcus won't be attending. He's too busy working at his new job, a middle management position at a small firm across town. I sent a generous gift with a note that read, "Congratulations. By the way, Aurora Technologies just acquired your company. Welcome to the family business." Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about rising so far above them that they can't help but look up and wonder how they missed seeing your potential all along. As for that small apartment I'd kept all these years, I bought the building last month. Sometimes it's fun to keep up appearances, especially when those appearances hide an empire built on the ashes of other people's arrogance. Dad still sends monthly emails, each one filled with business proposals and investment opportunities. I forward them to my spam folder, right next to Marcus's desperate attempts to explain why he deserved that inheritance more than me. But my favorite email came from my grandfather's old lawyer. Apparently, there was a letter to be delivered 5 years after the will's execution. It read, "Dear Sophie, if you're reading this, your father probably did exactly what I expected with the inheritance. Remember, success is the best revenge, but patience makes it sweeter. P.S. Check your offshore account. That $2 million your father redirected? I matched it in an account he never knew about. Love, Grandpa." I had never used that money. I didn't need to, but knowing it was there, knowing that at least one person in my family had believed in me all along, that was worth more than any inheritance.